Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
We are live. It is DK. We have Trisha in the building, your hosts, and today we have an amazing lineup for you of health and fitness headlines. We have really 4 stories we're going to cover today. We're going to talk a lot about fitness today. We're also going to share a burn story from Kristen from Union, Kentucky, one of our new gyms out there. And as we open up here today on April 16th, everybody, spring is in the air. And after every winter comes spring, after every spring comes summer, then comes fall, and the cyclical nature of the world. It's just such a metaphor for kind of what it's like in life, isn't it, Trish? Like the winters sometimes come and they're harsh, and sometimes the spring comes and it rains a lot. And but I know that everybody is gearing up for an amazing summer. Any summer plans yet? Are you that far into the planning stages?
We have to be with, my husband's schedule. He works in NASCAR, so he only has like a couple of weekends that we can do anything. So we do have a family vacay planned, and then, Summit, we're all pumped for Summit. Summit's huge for Burn Bootcamp. But other than that, just trying to spend time with the kids when they're off school.
Springtime is kid time, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Energy drinks, guys, are a big controversy, a big topic. We have a people.com article. They're newer. Energy drinks are newer. And a lot of people, obviously, the industry has boomed and a lot of people consume energy drinks. We're just going to have a conversation about energy drinks, the industry, caffeine, its prevalence in society. And we'll use a people.com article as a baseline for that. There's a debate out there that there is this thing called sugar. Mm-hmm. And sugar is demonized, and so then they made a sugar alcohol, or better known as artificial sweeteners. So we want to know which is better. We want to know, should we be consuming these things? And we want to have a debate and a conversation around sugar versus sugar alcohol. Health.com provides us with an article to have a conversation around there. 2 more articles we're going to go over today. More cities and more counties are removing fluoride from their public drinking water. We'll talk about hydration, drinking water, the importance of hydration, and just like what the heck is fluoride anyway, how to get in our drinking water. We'll just have a really robust conversation around fluoride. I think it's an interesting topic. It's like weird that stuff stuff that is like invisible in essence ends up in our water, and now we're supposed to be like, wait a second, there's what's in our water?
Yeah.
It's called fluoride? Okay. I know you've probably heard about it before, but if you're anything like me, you're curious, you're wondering, like, what is this really a problem? Everything's a problem. By the way, nowadays in health and fitness, yep. Trisha, if you've noticed, it's like, don't do this, don't do that. So many stop gates that it's almost like paralysis by analysis. We've heard of that one before.
Yep. You can't do anything right, it feels like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm excited to dive into it. I have also had like this mindset around this fluoride, because we've talked about it before on the podcast, and the more that I've dug into it, the more now I'm like, wait a second, what are the processes that we actually have in place? If we're going to put fluoride into water, is it just set it and forget it? Is that how we act? I don't think that I agree with that. And so I think we need to have some more processes put in place on when we do things. Let's make sure that it's still working the way that we anticipated it to work, so we don't get to this point.
Yeah. We shouldn't need like a periodic table of elements to have a glass of water. That's for sure. And then finally, a little bit more niche article here. We're showing Falls Church some love. We have a gym in Falls Church launching a month-long fitness challenge, the Northern Virginia Magazine.
Yes, I love this. So I actually got this article off of a Google alert. I have Google alert set up for anytime Burn Bootcamp's mentioned. And this one sparked my interest. I was like, okay, the healthiest city, and Burn Bootcamp, Falls Church is involved. So I want to talk, and Burn Bootcamp, we're all about communities. So I thought this would be really cool to dive in. And if you're from Burn Falls Church, make sure you're sharing this.
Speaking of communities, we have Kristen from Union, Kentucky. Kristen is a lead trainer at Union, Kentucky, and she was diagnosed with MS last year. She had submitted a story in that we just absolutely fell in love with, and we wanted all of you to hear it. This is Kristen from Union, Kentucky.
My name is Kristen Byron. I'm the lead trainer of Burn Boot Camp Union, Kentucky. And in light of it being Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, I wanted to share my story with you guys. Back in May of 2024, I accepted the role of becoming the lead trainer for this new gym that was opening in Union, Kentucky. And at that point, we needed a Burn certified trainer. So I made my way to Charlotte, North Carolina, where headquarters is, to do my Burn certification training. It was in Charlotte where I discovered my first onset of symptoms. So from my right side, all the way from my hip up and down my arm, I went completely numb. And at that point I was hospitalized, and MRI scans led to show that I had lesions that formed on my brain, and I also had lesions on my spinal cord. If you're unaware of what MS is, it is an autoimmune disease that affects your central nervous system and affects how your central nervous system communicates with the rest of your body. So at that point, with that onset of symptoms, I was in a really tough position because I was moved to a new area, and I was trying to understand what my body looked like while I was coming out of this onset of symptoms and this relapse, and trying to figure out what my body was capable of at that point. I'm very thankful because I was in the best position being at Burn, because Burn is so community oriented. It was so wonderful to be surrounded by so many people day in and day out, whether or not they knew my story, or whether or not they knew what was going on with me. I'm so thankful for the members that we have here in the community that has developed. So that has been a really great piece of encouragement. I'm happy to say that because of medical advancements and because I'm on a treatment plan, I don't experience symptoms as of right now, and it also allows me to train and be at my full capacity. So I'm very grateful for that.
Wow, thank you so much, Kristen, for sharing your story. You guys, we know transformation stories, they're not just physical, they're emotional, they're mental, they're spiritual, and no transformation story is the same. So if Burn has changed your life in any way, please go to burnbootcamp.com/transformation and share your story today. You never know. At some point, someone needs to hear your story. So thank you, and thank you again, Kristen. That's very powerful.
All right, Kristen, and we're going to keep it going here, guys. And listen, so we're going to talk about energy drinks first on the pod today. Energy drinks. Let's kind of start before we dig into all of our content here, and we pull up this article. There's a very tragic article that we're going to pull up. Yeah. And this is it's a catchy headline, but and I want to be sensitive around it because it is very tragic, but the headline from people.com is Workout Queen 28 who loved the buzz from caffeinated energy drinks has a heart attack, suffers fatal brain damage. And her mother in the article is essentially saying that, these energy drinks are very harmful and deadly. So we'll get into that later, and whether that's the truth or not. Our hearts go out to the Workout Queen here. Katie Donnell and her mother. It's obviously a tragic thing to lose somebody, but it basically sparked a big debate around caffeinated energy drinks, and that's the angle that we're going to take, Trisha. So when we think about this industry, right, and Chelsea, keep GPT up and keep Google up, because I'm going to ping a bunch of questions to you through this, because I'm not an energy drink expert, nor is Trisha, but we are connoisseurs. And
Yes.
and listen. Caffeine itself. Before we go to energy drinks, let's start at caffeine. I was doing a little bit of research last night, getting prepared for the pod, and I'm calling it the pod now.
The pod.
Yeah. And I was wondering, I was curious, how much consumption of caffeine versus sugar is there in the United States? And then what's some safe recommendations for caffeine? Well, it's no secret that caffeine is a drug. It's one of the most available drugs. Now, you can hear the word drug, and they can be like a triggering word. Everything can be called a drug, right? Well, it's like pharmaceutical drugs versus narcotics. Okay, there's a difference.
Yeah.
But caffeine is clearly not like a street drug, right? So it's just it's falling into this. It's weird though, because now it's like this it's pharmaceutical type, it's a compound, it's a chemical compound, and it's in our and and it has this like physiological effect, and it's now in like Coke and Monster and Red Bull. Red Bull created the industry, basically the energy drink industry, but it did not create caffeine. So caffeine has been, how long has caffeine been in like products, and when was it the first? When was the first caffeine introduced in products? I'm pretty sure Coca-Cola actually put real cocaine in their products at first, and then we're like, hey guys, that's maybe not a good idea. Let's not put real cocaine in Coca-Cola, and let's maybe put some caffeine. Is that the case, you guys? Do you know, Trisha?
No, I don't. I
Okay.
literally just looked it up though, because that's a very interesting question.
I think Chelsea, what do you got over here on GPT? Zoom that in for me so I can read it and show it on the screen here. Okay, so caffeine has been used in products for centuries, both naturally and as an additive. It naturally occurs in various plants, coffee beans, tea leaves, cacao pods, speaking of pods, and it's been consumed since ancient times, okay? Coffee beans obviously go back as far as agriculture. The history of these beverages, like coffee and tea, dates back thousands of years, blah, blah, blah. For its use as an additive, caffeine began added into commercial. This is where we're getting somewhere. So caffeine began to be added into commercial products like soft drinks and medications in the late 19th and 20th centuries. Most of the famous caffeinated soft drinks, Coca-Cola, were first sold in 1886 and originally contained caffeine derived from the cola nut as a key ingredient. What's the cola nut?
I wonder if that's how they got their name.
Maybe that's where cocaine comes from. No, I'm just kidding. I know where it comes from. Cola nut. That's weird. I never heard about that. Maybe that's where the myth is. And is it a myth? Did Coca-Cola put? Maybe that's a side note we can look at later.
Yeah.
Maybe because that's a myth. We've all heard that before. I'm not sure if that's true. Over the years, caffeine has become a common additive in a variety of products, energy drinks, certain types of sodas. Okay, so we get it. 1886, this begins to get commercialized. I believe it's in 1997, in which Red Bull is the first energy drink started in Sweden?
No, it's actually launched in
Austria.
1987.
1987.
Yeah, and then 1997 in the U.S.
In the U.S. and Austria in 97.
87.
In 87. In the U.S. in 97.
Correct.
Okay. And then from there, boom, right? Let's go to a chart. Let's look at what are the caffeine sales per company in the industry. I'm guessing that it's number 1 is Monster. Number 2 is Red Bull. Number 3 is Rockstar. I'm just guessing. This is a GPT question. GPT is the best place for this because it'll spit you out. Just say real quick, chart top energy drink companies by revenue last 5 years. And it should pull us up something good. So caffeine has been in coffee since the ancient times. It's been in Coca-Cola since Coca-Cola was around, essentially. And we have this new market, this energy drink market, and there's also like this article at people.com. The workout queen, her mother attributes her consumption of caffeine to this fatal heart attack. There's also one I saw at Panera Bread. I don't know if you saw this one. Let's keep this window up here. Let's Google Panera Bread caffeine overdose. I believe it was at Panera Bread. They came out with a brand new drink. Do you remember the drink they came out with? Like the unlimited bev? It was like unlimited iced something or other.
It was supercharged lemonade.
What was it, Chelsea?
They were like supercharged lemonades.
Explain what you know about that.
So pretty much
that's about it. It's like supercharged lemonades.
I don't know a ton about it, but to your point, they came out with this like monthly unlimited beverages, and their supercharged lemonades, if you get like the biggest size, has like 200 to 250 milligrams of caffeine per large drink. So people were going after multiple of these. So some people were having 600-800 milligrams of caffeine, not even realizing it.
On top of all that sugar.
On top of the sugar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's before we move on, we got a couple threads we're pulling on here. Before we move on, let's bring it back to one point. One point is that although these headlines are very captivating and it's sparking debate and controversy, which I think is a good thing to like let's peel back the onion. Let's open the hood. Let's examine this. But I will say that everything that I can find says that there's been about 90 to 100 deaths that can be potentially related to caffeine. This was like in 2018 based on the article that I was reading. And so, 400 milligrams of caffeine is about 350, 400 grams is what we're consuming on a daily basis. On average, sugar is 11 million metric tons, something like that. And caffeine was, I'm looking at my notes here because I forgot the exact numbers, 11 million tons of sugar, 31,000 tons of caffeine. So sugar is consumed like in orders of magnitude more than caffeine. Caffeine then was related to like 90 to 100 deaths in 2018, but then you see these big headlines.
Yeah.
So you could go and you could take multiple angles, and I'm going to come to you for Trish on your angle. My angle is that this is too early to know like what the effects of it really are, especially in these beverages like energy drinks. And it's pretty scary because you could drink like 1,200 milligrams of caffeine in like 5 minutes, and that's like a deadly dose. Like this is a potentially dangerous thing. People should be aware of. It's generally safe, and I'm not gonna like fear monger over caffeine or anything like that. I drink 300 to 400 milligrams every day, but large pops of caffeine in short periods of time have been found to create like fatal adverse effects. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, when I'm reading this article, I mean, just obviously so sad. But digging in, she was drinking, I think they said between 3 to 4 cans per day of an energy drink.
It doesn't seem like a deadly amount or a lot.
No, but
me.
if you do the quick math on that, and depending on what kind of energy, they didn't release the name, but I have this chart pulled up in front of me that's sharing average caffeine content. And we know, because I drink energy drinks. They have about 200 milligrams caffeine. So 2 times, obviously, the 4. So she's drinking 2, 4, 6, 8. She's drinking 800 milligrams of caffeine, potentially on top of coffee, that the report said. So she's clearly, so in my opinion, I sometimes drink more caffeine when I am feeling anxiety and like I need to get shit done. So part of me was like, she probably has some serious stuff that she needed to unpack as well. And also, like, you never know what underlying health issues you have. That's what I think was alerting to me, was a good awareness for me to be like, how much caffeine, just like a little mental check of how much caffeine am I consuming, because I do have to check myself and I do have to make sure that I don't consume too much, because your girl will and has overdone it on caffeine. But you never know if you have an underlying issue, like potentially, she had, which then too much caffeine triggered this fatal heart attack. And it's just very, very sad story that now, her mom and her family is dealing with. So I think it's just these headlines, while they are terrible and heartbreaking, it is, for those who are reading it, just a good reminder for us to make sure we're doing our own check on our own health.
Yeah.
And to give a little bit of context to what you were saying, drinking 2 to 3 energy drinks a day, kind of the average for a healthy adult without underlying conditions is 400 milligrams a day. So if you're drinking 2, 3, 4 of those, that's double the amount for a healthy.
Yeah, also too though, they wouldn't put Monster energy drinks on the shelf in which you could walk into any store and buy them unlimited with no verification if 4 energy drinks in a day were deadly for you, and some coffee.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of days where all of us in this room, maybe not, but definitely Trisha and I, that's for sure,
Yes.
have taken 800 milligrams of caffeine in a day. And I am, my intuition radar is going off here. I've learned to trust my intuition radar, and I'm calling underlying condition on this one. And I don't see a world in which caffeine consumed at that rate should scare people. I'm not a scientist. You shouldn't. I mean, this article shows this. It shows an incapacitated Katie, and it's like, It's interesting that the family would want those photos out. But I'm just playing this one logically. Do I think that 800 milligrams of caffeine a day is something that we should be? No, because all the science will say, like, come on, guys, like, you don't need that much caffeine and it's too much. But also, caffeine. It's not new. Like, it's been around since 1886. You think Katie's the first person to drink 5 Diet Cokes in a day?
No.
Right? Is she the first person to drink 10 Diet Cokes in a day? I once met a member, and I shit you not, I met a member who was drinking 40 Diet Mountain Dews in a day. 40 cans.
Let's do the math on like
One
the amount
after
of minutes
another,
are in a day.
after
I was
another,
gonna
after
say.
another, after another. Yeah, do the math on that.
Yeah.
What's do it on your computer, Trisha. What is 40 cans of Coke? What's the average, Chelsea? What's the average amount of caffeine in, like, just say, let's just use Diet Coke, because I think Diet Coke would be more helpful for people as a widespread source of caffeine. How much was it? 40 milligrams, something like that, in a normal can of Diet Coke.
46 milligrams.
46 times 40. Yeah. So do you know what I mean? So, okay, and it brings up an interesting conversation, because, and I don't want to say, I don't want to be the one who's saying, hey, listen, this is like, drink as much caffeine as you want. Like, no, you definitely need everything in moderation. Water toxicity is the thing, people. If you drink too much water in a short enough period of time, you can literally drown internally. Like, so, like, too much of anything is going to be bad or good for you. And so, caffeine is no different. And you can't imagine that, this is like, caffeine can be noted as like fatally dangerous because somebody drinks 4 cans of Coke in a day.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the math on that?
The math was 40 cans at 34 milligrams of caffeine is 1,300 milligrams of caffeine. It takes the average person about 5 minutes to drink a can. So she spent 200 minutes per day, which is 3 hours and 20 minutes drinking caffeine. And
that's a real thing. And people can get very, very addicted to that carbonation, that feeling that, you can, right now, you can feel the feeling of what it's like to like have soda and like be thirsty and then have soda. It feels good.
Yeah.
It's a very good feeling. So people get very addicted to it. But okay, so this is the direction I'm going to take us. So are you guys ready for this?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. Let's go to GPT and, or let's actually go to Google and let's ask Google to show us real advertisements of doctors promoting cigarettes in the 1950s. Okay, here's a good one. Okay. So there's a doctor. What year is this? This has to be this is Viceroy. So this has to be in the 40s or 50s?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want everyone to realize something. Let's just take a step back on this. And this is part of the energy drink conversation, okay? Let's just take a step back for a moment. What do you see here, Trisha?
Well, the first thing is, as your dentist, I would recommend the cigarette Viceroys. And he's holding up his dental. So it's just, my dentist says it's okay. I guess it's okay for me.
Right? Like, so what this is telling me, when you're observing it, is that we don't know what's bad for us until it's bad for us.
Yeah.
Our dentists were recommending cigarettes. And this is, just go to Google and just type that one thing and let's go through all the different ones. There it is, right there. Go to images. Perfect. Okay, so as you guys know, we're video podcasts, so I apologize if you're listening to this, you can't see what we are looking at, but we always have a screen in-house, and we're always looking at the internet. Let's go through and click through some of these, Chelsea. Start in the upper left-hand corner, yep. Okay, so here's this first one. This is one of my favorite ones. 20,679 physicians say Luckies, which are cigarettes, are less irritating. It's toasted. That is that is what was happening when Lucky Strike cigarettes were marketing to the masses. Now, let's play this out. Trisha, we did not have any science. We didn't have any campaigning against cigarettes. Nobody knew they were going to kill you. They were newer, right?
And you couldn't go to the World Wide Web and look it up. That was another thing back then. You just had to trust. You were like, okay, the doctor's telling me. And honestly, that's what I do. I mean, I have to put my faith in trust doctors too, but now I at least can do my own research. Back then, you couldn't do your own research.
And faith in the scientific and in the whole medical community is on the decline because of that. I mean, go click on more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Look, just imagine this. Okay, here's what I want you to imagine. This is my philosophy on energy drinks.
Yeah.
That this ad right now today, where the doctors, I don't know, are there ads where doctors are holding up energy drinks? Let's say there's a doctor holding up an energy drink of a can of Monster saying like, this is the best one for you. In 50 years from today, we're going to look back and that doctor holding that energy drink is going to be the same exact image as this image right here. Let me show it again. More doctors smoke Camels, make that big, than any other cigarette. More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Can you believe it? You guys can just zoom in on and make it big.
To be in marketing back then. Ooh, interesting.
Isn't that crazy? Okay, so that's my take, people, is that you're going to see this, like you're going to see carbonation and caffeine in any beverage that has those two things together. I think you're going to see that lose popularity. I think you're going to see it lose popularity. You already see that in the soda industry. You're already seeing traditional soda lose popularity with companies that come along like Poppy. Mm-hmm. And it's just the beginning. The health and fitness wave is here. It's going to be in food. It's going to be in fitness. And we are going to start telling the truth in our institutions about what it is to be healthy. And it's been before all of our time in which we've constantly been subject to the health and wellness propaganda.
I was just talking to a franchise partner yesterday, and we were talking about, just the health and fitness trends, and she actually shared a stat with me that I wrote down because I thought it was interesting. One of her friends is in the food and beverage industry, and she went to this convention, and she said that the categories of candy, chips, and cigarettes are down 30%. And so, we were just talking about that and how that relates to our business. And I do think that's interesting to this point that we're talking about, is because there's now different variations that are healthier, right? That's what they're being deemed as. But to Devin's point, in 50 years, are they actually going to be healthier? We don't know. So
here's an interesting thing to think about. So the bell curve.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so the bell curve is just basically is the normal distribution of anything, essentially, right? Just show a quick reference picture of the bell curve so everyone who
we should just pull that,
yeah,
because you've asked for this before. This is how Devin talks about the trends, the trend lines.
This is the world. Yeah, this is the world view. So this is the theory here, and maybe not a theory, more so it's just an observation. So this normal bell curve, that middle arrow, that's the normal deviation, and then you have standard. So that's like the average population, and then you have a standard deviation to the left and to the right, and then you have two standard deviations to the left and to the right. And as you go left and as you go right, the space, that white space underneath that bell curve, is a representation of the percentage of the population which engages with any one thing. So now, play this out across the world. I'm going to give you a couple of examples, but play this out across the world to Trisha's point of how the internet is actually, and access to information is actually renormalizing the bell curve. You can think about this most notably, let's just say, craft beer is a very good example of this. Television is a very good example of this. Let's just use those two things. Number one, craft beer. The bell curve used to be dominated, and still is, by Anheuser-Busch, let's say. Okay? Now, take out one standard deviation to the left and to the right. How many more companies underneath Anheuser-Busch, since the invention of the internet and access to information gave those without access to education and money, gave them the information to then brew craft beer, to then put their own creative spin on it. Now, the amount of craft beer companies, look this up for me real quick, the amount of craft beer companies in 1960 to 2025 is, I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but I know that it's dramatically more because the access to information has gotten wider. Therefore, more people know how to make beer. Therefore, those people who are making different kinds of beer can appeal to different types of interests because we all have very wild diversity of interests. And so now you can think about this. There's the normal average Joe run-of-the-mill person that likes their Bud Light beer, but then there's also, the Charlotte Mecklenburg brewery. What's that beer called here? The North Mech Brewery, or what's it called? Old Mech.
OMB.
Old
Old Mech.
Mecklenburg Brewery is a big one regionally in Charlotte. You've got a buddy of mine who makes craft beer for his friends on his street out of his garage, right? And he calls it Kyle's beer, right? So you have Anheuser-Busch, you have OMB, and then you have Kyle's beer, right? So now I have all of these different options, and which takes market share and market distribution, which ultimately flattens the curve. Do you follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So now the normal distribution just has more standard deviations, and more of the population is drinking Kyle's type beer rather than Anheuser-Busch, which is happening. Let's bring this back into the food industry, cookies and candy. Candy is being, it's being competed with. Right, we are understanding the effects. I mean, red dye in our food just got banned by the federal government. This is a big breakthrough, and so now the candy companies, Mars is going to respond to that, and they're still going to dominate market share. But you're going to get somebody, what's a healthy candy, Trisha, that comes up behind and says, "My kids have like this healthy version of Skittles at home." I forget exactly what it's called. But, to case in point is that's just starting to happen right now in the candy industry, right? And so, this happened in the television industry. Yeah. YouTube came along and redistributed that whole bell curve. Now you are watching this. You are part of my case study here. You didn't have access to health and fitness news like this prior to, so you're not going to go to like CNN or Fox and hope for like some fitness and health headline to come along so that you'd be interested in. You're going to tune in to where it's only the frequency that you want to tune into all the time, and that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, it was just interesting. I was doing some research I was listening, but also researching on just this idea of before the internet was a thing to after, and in the space of beer. And there was, in 1980, about 100 craft breweries in the U.S. Internet was introduced, as we all know, in 1990. So if we jump to 2000s, went from 100 in 1980 to 1,400 in craft breweries in the 2000s. And now today, in 2025, there's about 10,000.
Wow.
So
right. And it's like a college course now. Like you can actually go take it in college. It's become such a popular thing. You can do it in college now.
Which now the internet is. Devin and I text about AI and just what you can do with AI. So it's just like what category is going to blow up next. Like one person makes a splash and then it triggers someone else to be like, oh, I can do that too. I have it all at my fingertips.
So in 40 years, people.
What are we going to be talking about?
Just make, we'll talk about this a little bit later in the podcast, but things that come from the earth, generally speaking, those are the things we should probably consume logically.
Yes.
And less debating the nuances over this chemical compound and that chemical compound and all these and what happens when you put them all together and have all these peer-reviewed studies and trials and human randomized control and Google scholarly journals and like whatever just happened. Like God put food on plants and animals on the earth to be consumed by human beings. This is this thing called circle of life, and let's try to eat as many things from the earth and from the ground in their natural states that we can.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a simple person.
I feel like I'm like everything in moderation, and if you can eat whole foods, like just do that.
Don't you know that's the boring argument, Trisha? That's the boring stuff. That stuff doesn't get clicks on social media. How are we supposed to get millions of views if we don't demonize something that makes people feel terrible about themselves when they read it, to question every life decision they've ever had, and then to go into a rabbit hole, an emotional recession for 2 weeks, and ultimately into a depression, wondering why it is they started cold plunging in the first place.
Oh gosh, I'm feeling like a terrible mom, all the things on top of that.
Oh, we love it. We love it. Listen, we are just having fun here. We're going to go to the next article, sugar versus sugar alcohol, or AKA sugar versus artificial sweetener. Which is better? Which is better here? We had some clips to play in the last one. I don't want to play those clips. I thought we had a great discussion. but I do want to play the clips from this one. I want to play first of all. Let's get some
Time now
let's
for
get
some
some
health news. And
let's get some input on this here before we go, because I'm not a scientist or a nutritionist, and either is Trisha. And so what we're going to do is we are going to bring in a clip from, let's go with the David Winters clip with his issue about artificial sweeteners. We're going to follow that up with a clip of Lane Norton debunking the clip that we just showed. So this is like a live clip debate between Dr. David Winters and Lane Norton. Chelsea, any other preface to this as we show these articles, or show these clips rather?
No, I mean, for this first one, he's pretty much saying why you shouldn't be eating artificial sweeteners, and then Lane gives the exact opposite.
Okay.
Let's
Let's set a stage here for Trisha and I to react. Trisha, I'm going to come to you for your thoughts right off the bat here after both of these gentlemen are done giving their take. Let's roll clip Dr. David Winters on artificial sweeteners.
what should we choose, real sugar or an artificial sweetener?
Well, Deshara, this debate's been going on for a long, long time. I'm not sure we're going to settle it today. The latest study that came out in the journal Nature Medicine said erythritol, artificial sweetener, looks like it can increase the chance of heart attacks and strokes. They say it can cause clotting. It'll take more studies to confirm or refute this, but even the other artificial sugars, they cause all kind of problems. They cause cancer, migraine headaches, depression, abdominal bloating, cramping. Artificial sweeteners can also cause obesity. How about that?
Now when
Okay. So Lane Norton follows up with a clip. Let's go ahead and roll that one.
Sweeteners. If you actually look at the human research, over 80% of the studies say it doesn't cause cancer. But you don't hear about those, because that is not what gets eyeballs. I would argue that artificial sweeteners are probably one of the most studied compounds in the history of mankind, to be honest. Probably dating back almost 7 decades, especially in the case of aspartame. Aspartame in particular is one of the most studied compounds in history. It's not a mystery of what happens to aspartame when it gets in your body. It's converted to 3 things. Aspartate, which is an amino acid, phenylalanine, which is an amino acid, both of which are found in any protein source, and then methanol, which, okay, sounds scary, but, we know what the side effect of too much methanol consumption is, and it's blindness. But the amount of diet soda you would need to consume to get an amount of methanol that would be problematic, you would actually die from electrolyte dilution from consuming so much fluid before you'd even get to it. When it comes to artificial sweeteners, if you actually look at the human research.
Okay, so obviously what we see here, my friends, is 2 completely different perspectives. And when it comes to these things, I spend my time trying to grow and build the Burn Bootcamp business, and to really focus on the health and fitness side of this, fitness especially. And so I've got to lean on, Trisha has to lean on people like Dr. David Winters and Lane Norton in order to inform. Now, here's my observation, Trisha, I'm coming to you, and I'll keep it at this without going into the whole sugar versus artificial sugar debate. My friends, when you guys are out there and you're listening to stuff on the internet, I want you to put down like logic first, and I want you just to use your intuition, right? If I show you a clip of, let's say, Dr. David Winters, and then I show you a clip of Lane Norton, who is speaking more authentically? Like, who is showing up in their, I need to be a doctor voice and be the voice of reason and everyone should listen? Like, who do you feel like is changing who they are, becoming a different version of themselves to deliver you some message? That, I don't know if that's something that you think about, but when I'm listening to somebody, I don't even care what they have to say or what comes out of their mouth. The first thing that I'm reading is, are you authentic? Or do I actually believe that you believe you? Mm-hmm. Do I actually believe you believe what you're saying? And I don't know about you guys, but when I hear Dr. David Winters, I don't believe a word that guy's saying. And when I hear Lane comes to me like an authentic version of himself. I've never heard somebody like Dr. David Winters say they were wrong. I've never heard somebody like that say they were wrong publicly in the scientific community. And I'm sure it exists. It's just not obvious. Lane Norton has clips that are 37 minutes long of what I've gotten wrong in the past, why I've changed my mind. So the reason why I suggest that is because when you can scan your authenticity radar and use that intuition, right? What you're also going to be finding is, when somebody speaks to you authentically and they're coming at you like exactly who they are, their likelihood of being humble, their likelihood of like admitting that they were wrong and changing their mind is much, much higher. And that to me is a marquee indicator of intelligence and of character. When you're able to say something with conviction, believing that you were right, and then be proven wrong, shown that you were wrong, and then be able to say, hey, I was wrong about that. Listen to people that can admit they're wrong and run away from people who can't admit when they had a misstep.
No, I think that's great advice. So for me, I consume both, right? I consume both sugar and sugar alcohol, and I've been judged like publicly for people like telling me I shouldn't consume sugar alcohol. I put Splenda in my coffee every single day. I drink the energy drink that clearly has sugar alcohol. And so I've always known that it's bad, and people tell me it's going to cause cancer and all these things. And let me tell you, I saw this clip from Lane Norton on my feed because I follow him. I think he's great. To Devin's point, he's authentic and he's going to tell you how it is. And I do like that. I didn't know that before, that he has called himself out for being wrong, and I appreciate him even more for that. When I saw that article, it like gave me this sense of relief, like, oh, because I was trusting my intuition of like, back to the point of they wouldn't sell this in the stores if it was going to kill me. Like, sure, if I was consuming too much of it all the time at high volumes, is it going to really damage my system? For sure. But like, that's common sense in my brain. So if I'm just having small amounts in moderation, I don't feel like I should feel bad for consuming it. And so I appreciate Lane Norton bringing this, because this clickbait material, and obviously being in marketing, I love social media, but that's the hard part about these clips that get shared, is sometimes you don't have the full context. People are just trying to get the engagement because they know that's going to put in the algorithm, and that's going to get them more money because they're going to be able to get more sponsors. So like, it's all this game that someone else is playing with other people's thought process. And it really just, I think, to Devin's point, if you can just think about it. And also, if you hear something like that, if you were to hear Dr. Winters, if you were watching him live, I think my also ask is, don't go then judge other people for consuming sugar alcohol. I think let people do what they want, do their own research. If you have like a loved one that you think is consuming too much, you can maybe tell them you should look that up. But like, just don't judge people, because I don't feel like that unless you have the actual scientific data and it is hard facts and everyone is saying it, that you should make people feel like they're doing something wrong and that they're potentially harming themselves for having some Splenda in their coffee.
Well, it's the fear mongering, and this is how propaganda is in war spread. It's how people derive significance. A lot of times is the things I will It's just because I don't want to sound like a hater, because I'm not, and I actually I can listen to somebody for an hour and I can get to the 3 or 4, truth bombs in there that I think were really great, that I appreciate them for. I'm grateful that they came and my hour of time was made useful. And I don't want to seem like this guy that's like hating, because I'm totally not that. I'm the complete opposite of that. I'm like overly positive and optimistic, but also being a realist and observing just our members. Millions of people have interacted with Burn Boot Camp over the last decade, and it actually does impact people psychologically when you are so convicted about something that it's so small and subtle. Let's just use like anabolic window as like a non-controversial example, because it's not. By bringing up something controversial on purpose, I would be doing exactly what I'm suggesting is not healthy psychologically for us. So if I were to say like, okay, there's this anabolic window in which you only have 30 minutes post-workout, only 30 minutes. And if you don't get your protein within this 30-minute post-workout window, your ability to gain muscle and protein synthesis is gone, right? People will say stuff like that.
Yep.
That's not the case, right? That is overstating the truth. That doesn't change the intention behind it. They're trying to do good and make people's lives better. But the reality is the following. The anabolic window is biologically a real thing. The significance of getting your suggested amount of protein within this anabolic window is 0.00000 correlated with overall results, overall goals. Therefore, it really doesn't matter when you get your protein in the grand scheme of things, unless you've already filled and checked every single other box possible, in which case you are like some professional bodybuilder or something along those lines. So I just think there's a lot of overstated advice that's very unrealistic practically, and this is one of them. Let me just do this logically, and then I'll come back to you, okay, for final thoughts here, and we'll move on. Here's like how I try to always step back when when you have like 1,000 different points of view coming at you, in this case about artificial sugar versus sugar, and everybody's saying something different, and there's a contradictive opinion over here and one that contradicts that over here, and you've got so many blockades around you, and everywhere you turn, it's just like, you might as well just never consume anything to do with sugar or artificial sugar ever. And maybe that's the case, and probably we should just do that. But like, let's be like practical and logical. And so I just try to like just take a step back and use like my own, like stop looking at text online and videos and listening to people. I'm like, what do I actually think about this, right? Like sometimes we get so brainwashed by other people, like we forget to ask ourselves the question, what do I actually think? And so when I ask myself the question, Devin, what do you actually think about this? Artificial sweetener, sugar? Here's my logic. Too much of anything can be bad.
Boring answer.
Boring answer. Too much water, water toxicity. We get it. But artificial sweeteners are made in a lab. God put plants and animals on this planet to eat, clearly, because they eat each other. So, like, that makes sense that, like, we're also an animal, a species. We should partake in eating of plants and animals, too. So I'm not sure if it was intended to eat fake synthetic food out of a test tube. But it can't be that bad, because there's also things that are life-changing that come out of test tubes. Like there's drugs that have made our lives significantly longer because of test tubes. Well, artificial ingredients and sweeteners clearly aren't making our lives shorter, because our lifespans are getting longer through time. Probably shortens your life if you ate like test tube food every single day, I would assume. But if you ate it like 1 or 2 times a week, is it really gonna hurt you? Probably not. If you're mostly eating things that come from the earth, that grow naturally, that are intended to be a part of the circle of life. So my advice would be like the most boring center, run-of-the-mill advice ever here, which I have nothing to sell you, so that's probably correlated to my boring advice, and I don't want to push you one way or the other, because there's really no sense in going one way or the other. It's like, yeah, probably if you don't need artificial sugar or table sugar, then you probably shouldn't eat it if you're a person that could be that disciplined. But if you're just a normal everyday human, like the 99.999% of us, then you're probably going to have some sugar and some artificial sugar along the lines. And then maybe you should probably like have it once or twice a week, and then you're going to live till, God willing, till you're like 80 plus, like a lot of people are nowadays, and you're going to have a long, grateful life. So I don't know, maybe I'm oversimplifying it. Maybe that's super boring. And it's definitely because I don't have anything to sell you. But to me, that's my truth. And it's just, that's the logic. And that's just where you simply stand back and you walk through it. It's like, yeah, probably that's about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with you, Devin. I think as I was reading this, again, I've gotten like, people have told me you need to stop consuming the Splenda or whatever it is that has the sugar alcohol. But I think about it also logically, is like, I don't overconsume sugar. So I think part of that is, think about your goals. And if your goals are to lose weight, and then you think about how much maybe sugar you're consuming, you might want to like reduce the amount of sugar you're eating, because that's an excess of calories. So like, really, it's just what do you need for your body to fuel your body the way that you need to show up and work out every day, show up for your kids, show up for yourself. And like from there, then do that. I don't think you need to overcomplicate any of this. I also, part of this is the idea of, and I know this isn't technically part of it, but when people used to tell, there was this a couple of years ago where people were saying, don't eat fruit because fruit has sugar and sugar is bad. It's like, no, there's been so many people that have debunked this. I think Lane has talked about it. Like, name one person who has had only fruit and is like overweight. Like, no. So just think about what you're consuming, what your body needs, and then like move on from there.
Yes.
Very boring answer as well.
No, I mean, you're totally right. And my recommendation is that if you have, so many people have a sweet tooth. So here's a couple recommendations for you if you have a sweet tooth. If you eat as much fruit as it takes for you to be full and satiated, and that can get rid of your sweet tooth, I promise you that you're going to wake up the next morning after doing that and you're going to feel lean because fruit is bioavailable. It will assimilate. The body loves it, okay? Fruit is not demonized for having sugar in it like Trisha was just saying a minute ago. It's different type of sugar, okay? So there's a sugar conversation that we can have, but I wouldn't include fruit in it at all. I wouldn't think of fruit as a sugar.
Yeah.
It's not a sugar.
I agree.
Okay? If that's the case, then you're going to have to start calling everything that's a carbohydrate a sugar and treating it the same way. Because a carbohydrate will break down into glucose. And what is glucose, Trisha?
Sugar.
It's a sugar. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do here is transition into a little sentimental moment here. You know why, Trisha, I want to get sentimental for a minute on the podcast today? Because around this time, 13 years ago, Morgan and we moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina from Naples, Florida. And I was running a business out of a box gym called Lightning 900. And you can actually pull up my Instagram, Chelsea, and we'll show some clips of the early Lightning 900 parking lot days. I moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina. Morgan was here working for the Kellogg Corporation and on the corporate ladder, getting promoted quickly. And we started Burn Boot Camp in a parking lot. They're a little higher, Chelsea. It's a little higher. There's a throwback one from just like last week or something. You should see, keep going up, right. Keep going up. You'll see it. It's above that right there. So if you want to pull that up as soon as you get it live, I'll start talking about it. So we are in Naples, Florida. We have a Lightning 900. This is it. This is not Burn Boot Camp, by the way. This is Lightning 900. So we are in a parking lot outside of a Lifestyle Family Fitness on their basketball court. And this is a carousel, Chelsea, so you can scroll to the right. And then we were also, there's my bald head post-baseball. And then we were inside doing some wall sits. As you can see, I was constantly building community even back in the day. Today, you can see kind of some of these. We do these for a finisher sometimes still today. Keep scrolling. This is the parking lot. So you could see indoor, outdoor, Lightning 900, that's what it was called. It was an hour-long, burn 900 calories in an hour. That was the whole tagline. If you just keep scrolling through, get through the rest of these. Yeah, so this was the original parking lot. And then we moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was like, I want to find a lease somewhere around here. I want to move into like a little facility. And we could only like fathom affording like maybe 1,000 or 1,200 square foot facilities because we had like no money. Morgan was sugar mama. She was making like $60K a year working at Kellogg's, and she had a great little cozy job. And I was this renegade entrepreneur who had always flipped cars or started snow shoveling businesses or mowed lawns or sold CDs back when you would burn CDs in middle school. And I was always this entrepreneur. And so Morgan had us secure, and so I was like, I wanted to tap back into that, and I took this idea of Lightning 900 that was really part of my program inside of a big box gym, and I took that and I went and sublet a parking lot because nobody would give us a lease at the time because we were two young broke kids, And all I had was like $600, and so I went down to the local Dick's Sporting Goods and bought a $600 worth of like dumbbells and mats, and I sold them out, the Dick's Sporting Goods. They were like, dang, how big is your home gym? And I was like, actually, boys, can you put me on like a commercial ordering list or something? Because I'm going to open a bunch more of these in North Charlotte, and I'll be back. So Dick's Sporting Goods, North Charlotte, was my vendor.
You manifested it.
Yep, was my vendor. And so we'd sell them out, and we did that 5 times over out of these little parking lot type gyms. And then Morgan and I looked at each other one day on a Saturday camp, and there was about 150 women out on a Saturday camp. And I've told this story many times, but we were all doing plyometrics. And if you do a plyometric day at Burn, you know your like legs are jello. And I had them do a sprint finisher after a plyometric day. Yeah, you know what that means. And it was like Noodle Leg City. And women my members were like, some of them would start falling over because their legs are just done. They're toasted. And like me, I'm a hardcore trainer. That type of stuff to me, I'm like, good. Got a little blood on your knees? Let's go. That's what it's about. Scrape yourself, get right back up. You ain't dead. Let's go. Wipe it off. Right? So I wasn't going to go, but I was like, come on, get up. Here we go. But what happened was members that had already finished, they were going back. And they were grabbing members who had fell to scrape their knees, and they were picking them up literally, and they were carrying them. If this was a 100-yard sprint, it wasn't like short sprints. They were carrying them 50 yards at least. The amount of response from that group of 150 people on Saturday morning in the summer, like 90-plus degree weather in North Carolina, was life-changing to me. I was so like dumbfounded, like blown away at what I saw, that I looked at Morgan as soon as we got in the car, kind of the calm after the storm, and we both go, man, that was a lot. 150 people, that was a lot of emotion. We both looked at each other like, what? This is special. Like, fitness, push-ups, sit-ups, commodity, sure thing. But this emotional impact that we can have, this community we're building, that's a special thing. You can't teach that. You can't recreate that. This is going to be anybody can do camps, anybody can do 45-minute workouts. You cannot recreate what we have here. This is special. Let's take advantage of it. Let's go. And in that moment, we distinctly remember we were gonna go build the business. And then in 2015, we had 5 locations. Mike and Andrea Hartshorn and Aaron Studdard were our 6th and 7th location, and our first number 1 and 2 franchise partners. They are both with the brand today. Mike and Andrea have been and are still multi-unit franchise partners. And Aaron Studdard is now a trainer, had sold her gym, is now a trainer in Florida, and an amazing organization down there. And we haven't looked back ever since. You know, we're one of the fastest growing fitness companies to ever enter the marketplace, and that was never the goal. The goal was always to transform the family unit from the inside out, and that starts with mom. And we always knew that from the very beginning, even when we didn't know much else. Mm-hmm. And Fit Community of Moms, Charlotte's Fit Community of Moms, rather, was the very first tagline. And today that still resonates now that we have had, millions of people work out at Burn, and, hundreds of locations, thousands more coming. We've kind of like in this position where it's a little bit surreal, and the way other people look at the business that we've created. And, it's surreal for me to like hear them look at Burn with like, oh my goodness, amazing, kind of how the heck did you do that, wide eyes. To me, it's just about partnering with my people, franchise partners at every trainer, every location, every day. Our headquarter team, Trisha, is the fabric and the soul of the brand. I mean, she literally is who we serve. She cannot be replicated as the leader of our marketing organization and division, because she is who we serve, and she speaks right to herself when she's marketing our brand and our business. And so it's just been an amazing ride, an amazing journey. Trisha, I'll get your walk down memory lane here, but like just from a personal perspective, I think people are kind of always interested in like, what's my perspective personally of all of this.
Yeah.
Anytime you hear somebody say like they made it, they were always in it for the money.
Yeah.
I was in it for the money until I could like have a house, have like some discretionary income that I maybe could like be like a part-time wannabe investor with, right? And then have enough to like feed my family and run a business and do what I love every day and show up and train people and impact their life in a positive way. And if I had enough money to do that, it was about the money until that point. That came very fast to me. Like I come from nothing. I come from like food stamps.
Yep.
Like I got a signing bonus with the San Francisco Giants. Changed my life. Like measly amount of money to like most adults. Changed my life. I could actually move. I had enough money to move somewhere, you know? So then to go fast forward and to, you know, be on food stamps and in poverty your whole life and to have this perception of money that is like, man, if I just had a little, man, I'd be over the moon if I could just have this much money.
Yep.
And, you know, what's that like arbitrary number in income that you need every year? $80,000, $100,000 a year, so maybe something like that. And as soon as I, you know, passed that, I looked down and like, you know, this doesn't matter to me, but the reality is that Morgan and I were both millionaires in our 20s in a very young age. And so, you know, that was crazy to me when it first happened, but I'll tell you what, that I haven't thought about that since. And we are fiscally responsible and live within our means and have lived within our means as that kind of percentage of our overall income. And to me, it's not about how big this company can get and how much net worth Devin and Morgan can make and where can we, you know, what can we invest into and how can we diversify our portfolio. Like, you know what I care about? I care about being on the floating floor in the gym, seeing that member who has doubt look at me like I am batshit crazy when I ask them to do something. And then for me to look back at them with more conviction in them than they've ever had in themselves. And they do it. And in that one moment, they achieved more in that 10-second interaction than they achieved in the last year. Man, that's what it's all about to me. So
I think, you know, I'll share my story, but I think what's really inspiring to me about you and Morgan is you guys obviously created this brand that's touched my life. I've shared that before. And so many others. I mean, we have 140,000 members right now in Burn Nation. And you guys don't just set it and forget it. You're constantly like, how do we continue to better our members' lives? We're now talking about not just the fitness side, but then the overall Burn lifestyle. And that's not to sell people on Burn Bootcamp. That's just to solve what we all are looking for to have a better, healthier life. So I just always think that that's interesting and inspiring is not we're just not coming out with a new product after new product. It's really truly to solve the needs of our members and what you guys know to be true. So I think that that's really just thank you. I guess I know I've told you that before, but this brand means a lot to me, and I've been a member for over, I think, 9 years now. I think back when it was Charlotte's Fit Community of Moms, I really wish
you were like the leader of Charlotte's Fit Community of Moms.
I was the FMA, the Fit Member Ambassador at the time. I was definitely part of that team in Cornelius. I had a shirt and I don't have it anymore, and I'm honestly just so mad at myself that I don't have that shirt. I cannot find it. But to see now from my perspective on how the brand has grown and how it's touching more lives, and you know, I can't wait for the next 3 to 5 years and how we can impact more and more people through what we're trying to do, this movement of using community and focusing on fitness, not just from a physical perspective, because we don't necessarily care about that. We want you to be healthy, but more we want you to be mentally healthy. We want your mindset to live your best life. So all of the key ingredients there is what Burn Bootcamp has set out to do, and the past 13 years have just been building blocks to continue to set us up and elevate us to be the leaders in the fitness space, to do more of that with more people.
Yeah, this might seem a little bit unusual to people, my perspective, but like, I don't have a perception that we have it together at all. Like, I have this perception that, because I can Google the business and I can see it and I can be like, oh, that's a great brand, right? But we're like, if it's crawl, walk, run, like we mom and dad just looked at us yesterday and we're like, oh Hi, they sent a picture. We took our first
they're
crawl.
walking.
No, we're at a crawl.
Oh, we're crawling.
We're at
Okay.
a crawl because, and here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I'll tell you, because what we've done together collectively, when I say collectively, I mean every person in this organization, from the newest member who gave us a shot today that validated the latest marketing campaign, to Morgan and I, who ran the first, workout ever. Like, everybody in between. It's taken every single one of us to get to this point. And here's the reality, is that we didn't know anything. Like, we've spent the first decade just in training. Not like physical training. Like, let me elaborate. We've spent the first decade as an organization in educational training, in experience training, in how the world works training, in what to do and what not to do training. So that the next decade and the decade after that, we can have exponential growth. And why do we want to have exponential growth? Because there are people right now in Singapore who are thinking heavily about contemplating suicide, the same way the countless people that I've met here domestically in the United States have come up to me in gyms when they get 30 seconds to 2 minutes to tell me everything that's on their mind. And they show me, and I've seen it dozens, if not more times, the scars on the wrist from the actual attempts to take one's life. And then the proclamation that Burn Boot Camp's energy, it's not the workout, it's the energy that the brand gave to this person in their life and in their mind, the energy, the positive input that Burn gave to them about themselves and the world around them caused them to set that knife down. And that happens all over the world. And I want to grow the business side, and I need to plug my gaps in terms of how to grow a global organization and how to do so fiscally responsibly so that we can reach Singapore, not so that Burn Boot Camp can have 10,000 locations. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it backwards. You're going to see us push it. You're going to see us grow. But that's not just for the sake of growth and for the sake of ego. That's for the sake of, when you Google Burn Boot Camp, you can see these smiling faces. They all had a situation that they came from that was so incredibly devastating to them that you have no idea. And they've come out of that because they wear our jersey on their chest and they bleed blue now.
I have a question for you, DK.
Yeah.
So when we reflect back on 13 years as we celebrate our 13th anniversary, what are top 3 moments that you can recall that was like almost like aha moments? And maybe one of them is the one of you and Morgan in the car. But I'm just curious, as you've progressed, and I can't wait to ask you this question in the next 10 years as we're in Singapore, what those key moments have been for you.
So the 3 key moments for me that I can remember that stick out to me the most, you're right. Number 1 is the story I just told around the very first hot Carolina Saturdays in the summer parking lot day when everyone was scraping their knees up. That was definitely number 1, and members were carrying other members across the finish line. Number 2 was pandemic, because during the pandemic, what I realized is that we are made of much more, exactly what I thought we were made of, but also much more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, we got some fortitude in this company, because good times, anybody can be great, but in bad times, only phenomenal companies can be good.
Yeah.
And we stepped up and we outshined everyone in our industry. If you were looking at the competitive analysis, and it wasn't even close. And now we're feeling the reciprocal goodwill of that here in 2025 as we are atop the industry in AUVs. And third, probably is more of a niche scenario, but probably that sticks out to me the most so far is Asheville's opening. This was the 100th location that we opened. So this would have been before the pandemic, but we opened our 100th location in Asheville. And I remember driving up there from Charlotte. I was so nervous because I was like, Asheville's like a key city in North Carolina. We've got to make this work. We've made Raleigh work. We've made Charlotte work. We've got to make Asheville work. It was Asheville Hickory. And I remember driving up there so nervous because I just had this feeling of this isn't going to work. You know, like I usually don't have that feeling. But I think that was probably the last time that I ever doubted our ability to open new locations, because when I showed up to this beautiful Asheville facility, and we have a video of this on YouTube, there is a line around the door, all the way hooked around the building. There's like 400 people, 500 people at the orientation for the Asheville gym. I feel like for the first time in my career, a rock star, because people kind of know who I am. And they're like, oh my God, I can hear people whispering like, oh, Devin's here, Devin's here, Devin's here. And then I got an opportunity to like go down that line and high five all of those people. And give like a little speech to them and just hug it out with Carrie Robitzer and her sister at the time. They were both owners. And it was just one of those things that all three of those moments were moments of doubt that were self-manufactured, that in reality weren't even the case. And how ironic is that for like you in your life and your thought? Like everybody has these moments pretty much weekly where we worry about what's going to happen in the future, and like 99.999% of the time it doesn't happen because you were prepared, and we were prepared. But those three moments. I
hadn't heard that Asheville story.
That was the first time you heard the Asheville
I heard.
story?
Yeah, no, that's really cool. It is interesting how you brought it back to then the doubt that you had given yourself, but then you overcame it. And I was part of the brand with the pandemic. I was on the marketing team, and I remember you always just saying, hold the line, winter is coming. And the way that you showed up gave every single, because it's top down, right? And I couldn't even imagine the amount of just pressure that you felt on your shoulders, you and Morgan both, but it worked, and you showed up for all of us in Bird Nation, and we all held the line, and we all came out of that. I know I grew from that tremendously. I mean, I went from being, I don't even know what my title was, but I was like, let's go. Like, I believe in this brand. This brand is special. I think I went in your office, like, I don't know, right after the pandemic, and, you know, you told me what I needed to do to get here, and here I am. So thank you for making us hold the line, Devin.
No, 100%. We had to hold the line together, and that's the marker of a great entrepreneur and leader. And I knew that in the moment. I was aware enough to know, hey, this is one of those times. What you do here is really going to matter.
Yeah.
How you handle this is really going to matter. It's actually going to not only matter for you, but it's going to matter for everybody, because a leader shines in moments where everyone else is uncertain. The only, like nowadays, I don't have to do much outside of when there's uncertainty. There'll be times when everyone looks at me and I have to make those 3 or 4 decisions a year. That's it. It's like, it's a great observation for you to make, that, you know, these times in which the environment that we cannot control as a formidable opponent actually makes us stronger.
Yep.
And it forces us to find out who we really are and show our true colors. So we're here to stay.
Yeah. Happy 13th.
Happy 13th birthday, everybody. Woo woo. And our final article of today is more cities, more countries, more counties, not countries, more counties remove fluoride from public drinking water. Okay, ABC News article. Let's dig into this article real quick. So more cities and countless counties across the U.S. are moving to ban fluoride in public drinking water after Utah became the first state in the country to do so. The Miami-Dade County Commission voted 8-2 on Tuesday to stop adding fluoride to public water supply. Just can you type in GPT as I'm going over this article here? Can you type in GPT, what is the history of fluoride in water? What is the history of fluoride in water? When did it get introduced? Let's just, now that it's here, and Commissioner Roberto Gonzalez is sponsored the legislation to refer to fluoride as a neurotoxin, and studies show it should not be in the water. This gentleman Roberto in Miami-Dade County. So he's like, hey, let's remove the fluoride, people. It's a neurotoxin. What are we doing here? All right, let's go through the history. Let's show this GPT window here, and let's go through the history. The history of fluoride in water dates back to the early 20th century, beginning with observations and studies that link the presence of naturally occurring fluoride to water, a naturally occurring fluoride in water to dental health. So the early observations is people that lived in areas with high natural fluoride had fewer cavities. This was the observation. Colorado Springs, Colorado. Dr. Frederick McKay, who along with other researchers discovered that while the residents had stained teeth, a condition later called dental fluorosis, they also had significantly fewer cavities. So what's worse, stained teeth or cavities? Research and studies. The pivotal research came from Dr. H. Trenley Dean, the first dental officer of the newly created National Institute of Health, or NIH. In the 30s, Dean conducted a series of epidemiological studies across different regions of the U.S. to determine the relationship between water fluoride levels and dental health. His research established low levels of fluoride in water could reduce tooth decay significantly without causing dental fluorosis. The first implementation was encouraged by these findings. In the first public trial of water fluoridation was conducted in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1945. The city's water supply was fluoridated. I thought that happened in Colorado Springs, it said. Okay, anyhow. The city's water supply was fluoridated and the residents' dental health. Oh, I guess, okay, in Colorado Springs, it was naturally had fluoride in it. They made an observation. Then they said, okay, let's study this. And then they said, let's implement this. And then they said, we're going to fluoridize water now. You guys follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All right, so they fluoridized the water from Control City, Muskegon, Michigan. The study demonstrated a marked decrease in cavities among children of Grand Rapids, leading to Muskegon also adopting water fluoridation. Expansion and adoption. So following these trials, fluoridation spread rapidly in the 50s and 60s in the United States and other countries. Public health officials supported water fluoridation as cost-effective measure to prevent tooth decay on a community scale. Okay. Next, controversy and debate. Despite strong evidence supporting dental health benefits, fluoridation has been a contentious issue. Opponents have cited potential health risks, ethical concerns over public consent, and disputes over the body of scientific evidence regarding its safety. Current status. Today, fluoridation is endorsed by numerous health and scientific organizations worldwide as a safe, effective public health strategy for preventing dental decay. However, it continues to be debated and is not universally practiced. All right. So now we're at anything to clear up there, Trisha? We're kind of...
You can keep going,
Okay,
DJ.
is everybody in the same page now? We all know what water fluoridation is, where it came from, the current state, where it's at. Utah became the first county to do so recently. Now this commissioner, Roberto Gonzalez, he is sponsoring legislation referring to fluoride as a neurotoxin and said it should not be in the water. What else do you find? Where do we go from here, Trisha?
Well, I think this is something that, if it hasn't started to spark, I think with the new president in his seat, I think we're uncovering a lot of things. And what I think bothers me as just an American citizen is like, why are we not thinking about this whenever we decided to put fluoride in water? One part of the controversy is that there's overexposure to fluoride, particularly in areas where there's already fluoride in the water naturally. So like if this is a natural occurrence, then why are we putting more in there to begin with? And then who's going back to make sure that by adding more, that's actually a benefit to all of us, and then not to have all these studies come out to where it's causing IQs to lower, I guess, in some kids because they were exposed to too much fluoride, and that's now giving us, I don't know, neurological issues. I have a lot of questions for the process here. I think going back to what are we doing?
Right, for sure. Yeah, what are we doing? It is a good question, and that's, because that's where the answers lie, in good questions. What are we doing? Well, certainly you can't reduce, like this whole reductionary method of saying fluoride causes autism or fluoride causes, it's like, come on. We have to approach it with more nuance and intelligence and critical thinking than that. These, scientific discovery, like the same way the bell curve can flatten with TV, as we talked about earlier, the bell curve can also, like, and I'm going to always make pro and con arguments, by the way. Sometimes this stuff, like, isn't how I necessarily feel. I'm arguing the pros and cons and trying to take, like, the objective approach to it, because I think it's wise that you have a level-headed agreement, and I believe that intelligence and critical thinking is the ability to hold two differing opinions in your head at the same time and be able to help reconcile those thoughts without demonizing the other side. Like being able to disagree with somebody and then still like have dinner with them and be cordial. And so when you think about just all of these different single variants that are getting demonized for causing things, like I'm not saying that fluoride isn't dangerous. I'm not saying that autism isn't on the rise. People that say autism is on the rise, clearly, but it's not because of these food things that you guys think it is. Well, those people's argument, if I was to steel man their argument, they're going to have the bell curve argument, right? They're going to say, well, we've become more intelligent in the scientific community. So therefore, we're able to diagnose things with more precision. Maybe we're able to call things that have been here for a very long time and we didn't know what to call it, or we bucketed it into something that was a larger umbrella term. Maybe now we're getting a more sophisticated diagnosis and analysis and differentiators of what actually this ailment versus this ailment versus this ailment is. Maybe like autism versus Asperger's versus, all these things could have been called, it could have rolled up back way in the day into like some, mental illness or something like that before we were educated. So what I'm saying is that I like the argument of this one, like cause and effect, like this one thing caused this, this one effect had this one cause and vice versa. I don't know. To me, it's a multi-factor, multi-vector approach. There's a lot of considerations and it's very difficult to pinpoint, and say like fluoride causes, what'd you say? Fluoride causes
neurological issues.
What did they say? You said something more specifically.
Lower IQ.
Lower IQ. Yeah. It's very hard to say fluoride causes lower IQ. So I'm going to again be the voice of reason, and you guys can think of me much as like somebody that sits between two people that are going to be very hard-headed and argue about like their opinion and how they're right over everything, and then be that logical person that's kind of in the middle. That's how I think, though, right? Because that's, I think, the practical way to navigate life is to say, yeah, fluoride occurs naturally in water, period. Should we add it to water? I don't know. Like we're gonna have to have two people around the table to debate that. So Trisha, when you think about like in the absence of needing like a periodic table, right, to be like an expert to talk about this stuff, I have a question for you, and the question is, how big of a deal, I guess, is this? Do you you did a lot of research on this ahead of time? Is it overstated? Is it understated? Like, what is your perspective on this and the hierarchy of all the problems and all the things that we need to worry about as a parent, as a mom, as a professional? Mm-hmm. Like, am I really worried? Like, am I really worried about water? Am I really worried about drinking water with fluoride versus water out of a hose versus water out of a bottle versus a glass jar versus with ice in it versus at room temperature? At some, like, what am I overstating it, understating it? Is fluoride a real problem? Can you find anything that's like specifically, states that fluoride is a directly attributed to these bad things? I don't know. I'm not super convinced on this one, and I wanted to know your thoughts.
Well, I've definitely started to now become against the fluoride being added into water. And I did some just quick research on how much is the price increase for just a toothpaste to get toothpaste without fluoride in it, I mean, it's 100% higher than toothpaste without. So, you know, for us, if it is this issue, which I can answer that question in a second, then we need more education and more data around it. And then it's also then going to cause us all to go spend more money on these products that don't have fluoride in it. But I think the biggest thing for me, going back to the original question of, is this an issue? I don't think this particularly is an issue for me to like spend time and energy, like making sure that I have gotten rid of all of the fluoride things and making sure I have like, I mean, we do drink obviously filtered water, but then, you cook with faucet water. I mean, when I make, pasta at home, I use just faucet water. So what I think the real issue is, going back to what is the process for all of this stuff? How many things? I mean, we're in business. We are constantly finding opportunities to improve the business. Who is making sure that whenever we set something out, whether it be 100 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, that we're looking back to make sure that this is what we set out to do. It is achieving the goal that we needed it to fix, or whatever it was. And then we're either going to continue to do it, or we're going to stop doing it because it's not actually making a difference. It's actually better to not have it because there's natural sources of fluoride. So therefore it's a non-issue. We can continue to live our life and not have these headlines come up that makes people then second guess everything that we're doing in the US. So that's where I think the bigger issue is just I want more confidence in what the government is looking after and the decisions we're making and the process of following up.
Yes. It is definitely a tug of war. It is definitely a confusing jungle of information out there, and this is why we have the debates. This is why we spark it up. This is why we show experts' opinions through clips and through guests, because we want you to have all the information. And maybe fluoride in your water isn't a big deal, but maybe it is, and we're gonna continue to explore that, and I'm gonna continue to learn more about the periodic table of elements so that I can speak to like how to consume water. Is this what we're coming to, people? Do we now have to know? Do we have to be like chemists? Do we have to know the chemical compounds? Do we have to understand how fluorides like relationship with the chemical periodic table of elements is? I don't know. I feel like you have to be a scientist just to like drink enough water and stay hydrated today.
Well, yeah, and if you don't have if you're not well versed or haven't researched it, I do feel like there's this level of like criticism that then comes after that of like, oh, you let your kids have toothpaste with fluoride in it? Like, do you know what's in it? Like, no, the dentist told me to buy fluoride toothpaste after a certain age, and so I just followed the rules of the dentist that I trust. So it's all just, I don't need it to be that confusing. I have enough stuff going on in my life that if we can eliminate that and eliminate the, judging of people as well, I think that would be helpful for everybody.
Okay, so let's transition and let's talk about burn locations real quick. The article that you found, Trisha, why don't you discuss that? What's going on in Falls Church?
So I thought this was really interesting. Falls Church is it's the top, not one of, it is the top community for fitness. Chelsea, is that correct? Like, I just want to,
Yes, it's the healthiest community in America from the U.S. News and World Report.
There we go. And, this headline was catching to me. They have a month-long fitness challenge. And so, of course, I was reading it because we're all about community. We're obviously all about how can we incorporate fitness more as part of your routine and what you do. And they are getting their community together here at Falls Church. And Burn Boot Camp Falls Church is part of what you can experience as a member of the Falls Church community. And I just think more communities need to look at what Falls Church is doing and follow suit. Do more of this. Let's encourage people to live instead of maybe trying to cause other issues that aren't going to impact your life. Let's do something that is going to impact your life, which is getting out and moving your body and creating good habits for not only yourself, but then also for your kids, the people you love and know. So that's where I thought this article was just inspiring and wanted to call it Burn Boot Camp Falls Church for being part of it.
Yes, Rebecca and John Metzger are the owners of Falls Church and multi-unit franchise partners of Burn Boot Camp. And speaking of franchise partners, guess what, y'all? We got location number 427, Columbia, Maryland, everybody. We have Jimmy and Caitlin. Add another one.
Let's
go. Woo! Big deal. You guys, keep adding to the Maryland community. We're growing in Maryland. You bet. we got to get our butts up there.
You know what? When I this past like our email, because we get an email whenever there's new franchise, when they're growing or new franchise partners, and I thought that too. I was like, I need to get out to Maryland.
Maryland was one of the kind of last states in this whole kind of East Coast region that we started to develop, and Caitlin and Jimmy have been a integral part of that. So let's go, guys. Keep it up. And if you guys would like to franchise with Burn Boot Camp with myself, we have 607 territories awarded. That leaves about another 1,000 in the domestic U.S. And we are not actively recruiting for global franchising, but if you're somebody who is global and you're listening into this and you're interested in starting the conversation to bring Burn Boot Camp to your country, then we can start that conversation as well. Go ahead and get that QR code right there with your phone. Go to franchise or burnbootcamp.com/franchise. And that's the right one, right, Trisha? Burn Boot Camp?
Franchise.burnbootcamp.com.
That's what I knew she was looking at me like, that's the wrong one,
I think
buddy.
you can do both. That'll redirect you to franchise.burnbootcamp.com. So you're not wrong, Devin.
Okay, well, you guys can go there. Listen, hit that page. It's going to request information from you. And just click get started there. And what's going to happen is you will be rerouted right to our team. And our team is going to walk you through every step of the process. This is the landing page that when you go to burnbootcampfranchise.com or franchise.burnbootcamp.com, you will land on this page. You know you're at the right spot. Fill it out. Talk to us. Let's explore whether Burn Boot Camp is right for you or not. All right, everyone. Hey, listen, we're going to get out of here because y'all have been hanging with us for quite some time. We appreciate your time. We don't have any more articles to go through today. Closing remarks. Well, my closing remarks are the following. We talk about a lot of stuff on the podcast. We debate a lot of stuff. We try to give pros. We try to give cons. We try to give perspectives. We try not to say what the right perspective is because that's subjective. I'll tell you what's right for me. Trisha will tell you what's right for her. But ultimately, it's up to you to lead your life and decide how you navigate the world based on the information and you're given and the cards you were dealt. Here's what I'll tell you. No matter what the information that you have is and the cards you were dealt, Burn Boot Camp's 13-year anniversary is evidence that no matter what, even with a terrible hand, even if you have no money and you got to start in a parking lot, and nobody believes in you at first, and no one cares about what you're doing, and you say you're going to go change the world, and people think you're crazy and full of good. All those circumstances that everyone else would use to form some negative story or narrative about the situation they're placed in, and the availability and the resources that they have around them to go out and make a life that they've always dreamed about, like, it's all right in front of you. If you want to take those excuses and run with them, it's right there. It's so easy to grab, and you're right. And it's justified, and it's not an excuse. But if you're going to say, I was meant for more, if you got that itch, if you have that fire, and you know that how life is going right now is not how life is going to be, and that you've got much more to give and to contribute and to grow with, if you know that, then you've got to make the decision. People can't make it for you. You can't sit around and wait for permission or wait for some influencer to tell you that it's okay to do this or to do that. Or listen, you are the CEO of your own life and your own journey. You make the decisions. Nobody makes the decisions for you. In my business, attorneys don't tell me what to do. They work for me. General counsel. Okay? We are your general counsel. The internet is your general counsel. You are the CEO, and you must make the decisions that are going to benefit you and your family's life because that's really all you should care about. At the end of the day, the world that's going on around you, the chaos, the tariffs to the politics to the this thing to that thing to the wars, all the things that are pulling us side to side, getting us to focus on negative energy when right in front of us, our family, the people that we need to focus on being a better human being for, taking personal responsibility for ourselves so they can see through not our words but our actions how to live a life of core value and of legacy. That's what this is all about. So I'm glad you're here listening, because I wanted to make a show, Trisha wanted to make a show that you walked away from at an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours of listening to it, and you're like, damn, my life is way better because I didn't waste my time. Because what we care about is your personal growth, your personal health, and your personal happiness. Thank you for the last 13 years. We're just crawling, not even close to walking yet on those first steps, and we're excited to be right here alongside you for every step of the way. Trisha, closing remarks.
Yeah, I think, I was just listening to what you were saying, and the people that are listening to this is the Burn Bootcamp podcast. And one of the cool things about all of us at Burn Bootcamp, I've talked to so many different members, we're all just trying to live the best life possible. So you're listening to this right now, and you have a family member or you have a friend who's really struggling. They're in that moment that Devin was just talking about. Go encourage them to come to camp with you. It took me 5 years to get my dad to come to camp. He was coming consistently. He's actually back on the bandwagon, but you just never know. You might feel like you've asked them before, but you just never know when their chance is they're going to say yes to that, and then you're going to change their life. So I just want to remind you, because I know we've all been there with the people around us, because we feel more empowered now, because we can do the things in the gym that have helped give us more confidence to do the things outside of the gym. And I just want to encourage us all, myself included, to just keep passing that along to everyone around you.
Thank you very much, Trisha, and everybody for being here today. We appreciate y'all. And we'll take it out like we always do. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.